14 years ago, when I got my TubeTech LCA2B compressor, I told my wife that it would be the last compressor I ever needed to buy. That obviously turned out not to be true, and she reminds me of it once a month. So when is enough actually enough? When is it actually going to end? Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, I'm Cole Caparoon. Thank you for stopping by for another video. Now, once you're in a point in your career where you're past the fundamentals, you understand what an EQ is, you understand what a compressor is, like you're generally getting decent results all the time, this is where the learning curve starts slowing down a little bit, but the experimentation needs to keep going. For years, I thought that eventually I would reach a point in my skill set that just I no longer needed to evolve, or that I would reach a point in my gear collection that it would just be the end, that I would no longer need to experiment with new gear, try new gear, or really change or add anything. And there's two problems with that. Firstly, music never stops evolving. Like the needs of music never stop evolving. Like if you're just doing the same thing over and over and over, then you're losing the race, my friend. For instance, if you just look at the frequency spectrum of what's happening now in music versus what happened in the 80s, like they're wildly different. The bass is so much deeper and the top end is so much higher. In addition to that, my skill set is constantly evolving. And so the tools that I need to accomplish the things that my ear is capable of and that my skill set is capable of constantly evolves. And then secondly, how brutally uninspiring would it be to just do the exact same thing every single day for 30 years. Now, I'm not talking trash about anybody that works on an assembly line or anything like that, but like we do this because we're creatives. And so treating a creative process like an assembly line process is just, I'm not gonna say it's wrong, but it certainly isn't creatively fulfilling. So let's talk about gear first. And the example that I wanna use is mix bus compressors. Now, way back in the day, I used to use the Waves SSL G bus on my mix bus. I used it because I had no hardware. I used it because it was a plug-in version of what my favorite mixers were using at the time. It's a great tool. I have no qualms with that plugin whatsoever. But eventually I wanted to step it up a bit and I picked up a Charter Oak SCL1. Now my thought process here was, what's the most transparent compressor that I can put on my mix bus? The Charter Oak SCL1, which is not being made anymore even, is one of, if not the most transparent compressors I've ever used. And I used that for a long time. I made a ton of great music with that. I loved that compressor. Eventually my tastes grew, my skill set grew, the music that I was working on evolved, and I needed something with more attitude, more smack. And so I picked up the Serpent SB 4001. I did a huge mix bus compressor shootout. I shot out the Allen Smart C1 and C2. I shot out the Shadow Hills 500 compressor. I shot out the Obsidian. I shot out the 2500, my own TubeTech, vintage SSL G384, and a handful others. And I settled on the Serpent SB 4001. Fantastic bus compressor, a true quad comp. It did everything that I wanted. I used that for many years yet again. And then I was over at Andrew Masters one day and he had an SSL Bus Plus. And I'm like, how do you like that thing? He's like, I think it's incredible. I was like, can I play around with it for a minute? I sat down and played around with it. And I agreed. It's absolutely incredible. The different stereo modes are incredible. The 4K mode is incredible. The saturation built into it is incredible. The low THD mode is incredible. All the additional attack and release times with the mix knob and the high pass sidechain and the dynamic EQ, like incredible. My skill set was ready for that. My budget was ready for that. The music that I was working on was ready for that. So I went to the SSL Bus Plus and I have now used it for years with incredible results. And I was not even looking or considering a different mix bus compressor. And then I saw SPL post the teasers of this Vinos compressor. And I was immediately like, what is that? Now, I was not in the market for a new mix bus compressor. I didn't necessarily have any problems that I was trying to solve with my mix bus compressor, but I picked this one up over from Dave Cobb and had a week with it now. And I'm just completely, utterly blown away by it. This video is not about the SPL Vinos. There will be a video coming on this compressor. Unfortunately, I have to take this one back tomorrow. But I called my wife up and I'm like, listen to this compressor. And she's like, She's like, oh yeah, sounds good. And she's like, remember when you said the Tube Tech was the last compressor you'd ever need? She reminded me yet again. And it just got me thinking about a whole bunch of things, about like, is there a final destination? Does that actually exist? It got me thinking about how the music that I work on has evolved, and I'm doing a lot more pop now than I ever used to. I'm working on a lot of music that has very, very deep sub bass, more than I ever used to. So the tools that I'm using for that stuff, it changes. It's different tools than the music that I was working on the hardest of metal on. And then it also got me thinking about all the times in the comments I've made a video about X piece of gear, and then, you know, 8 months later, a year later, 2 years later, someone was like, why aren't you using that anymore? I bought that because of your video. And now I want to put a little disclaimer in here. My goal with this channel is to never mislead anybody. I'm never trying to talk people into buying stuff just to sell you something. I'm only ever making videos about gear that fill a hole in my workflow, that evolve what I'm capable of and capable of doing. I feel bad that people think that from time to time, but it just got me thinking about all of this stuff and how important it is for us to experiment and to evolve, and to never get complacent with the gear that we're using or the techniques that we're using. And it doesn't have to be hardware. We could just be talking about plugins. We could just be talking about mix techniques, about automation techniques. In this video, I'm not trying to suggest that you need to constantly be spending money on gear. The point I'm trying to get across is that we should never be complacent. If you are doing the exact same thing for multiple years in a row, you need to mix it up. You need to mix it up for your own creative inspiration, first and foremost. Secondly, you need to mix it up because if you're not advancing or evolving the product that you're producing, if the music that you work on isn't constantly incrementally moving forward in any way whatsoever, you're gonna get left behind. It is very, very important psychologically, emotionally, creatively, and physically for us all to continue to make progress. And that could be with mix techniques, something like automation. It could be with different plugins. It could be with just how to mic an instrument up in a different way. It could be different settings on a compressor. It could be different gear itself. But it is, I can't drive this point home hard enough how important it is to not get stagnant. For me, at least, part of not getting stagnant is the actual gear that I'm using. Now, a side note to this, when I'm experimenting, and I hope that this helps you, when I'm experimenting with new techniques or new plugins or new hardware, I never do it, ever, on an actual mix. My experimentation always happens at a time when I'm not actually working on something. Now, my situation is a little bit different because I'm testing plugins and gear all the time for this channel. It's part of my job now is to test new gear and to show off the gear to you guys, plugins and hardware that I find compelling. But when I'm actually mixing, like for my day job, I don't want to get bogged down by the testing and experimenting phase. I need to fall into the creative flow and move and not let anything slow me down or stop me. And so because of that, I do all my experimentation, every technique, every mix trick I've ever showed on this channel about, you know, FabFilter plugins or whatever, fill in the blank. All those techniques were discovered at a time when I wasn't actually working on a song for a client. I was working on either an old song, an old mix, just testing out new features, or I would go back to an old mix and be like, what's the problems with this mix? How could I have actually made this better? And then find solutions to those problems on a mix that's been out for a year or two. And then once I solidify like a workflow or a technique or a new piece of gear for a new problem, then I know exactly where to implement that on a song that I'm actually doing for work. And so I'm never taken out of the creative flow ever, but I am constantly finding new techniques and finding new tricks and finding new plugins and finding new hardware. And it is because our skill set must never stop evolving, because the music is never going to stop evolving. And also, how uninspiring to just do the exact same thing over and over. So I have put in an order for a black one of these, the SPL Vinos. I have not used a piece of gear that made me actually laugh out loud like this one has every time I put it on my mix bus or I master a song with it. I'm truly completely speechless about this. And when it comes time to do a video on this in the future, I don't even know how I'm gonna put into words how I feel about it or what it does. But I will put a link to it down below if you wanna go check out prices and specs, along with links to every single other piece of gear that I use, and those links all go to Sweetwater. So anytime you guys need any piece of gear, whether it's an expensive mastering compressor or a microphone cable, you can jump on any one of my videos, click on any link in the description of any video. Once you're on the site, you can purchase absolutely anything that you need, and costs you nothing extra, but it goes a super, super long ways to help me keep making videos just like this. So thank you so much to Sweetwater for sponsoring this video, and a huge thanks, seriously, a huge thanks to you guys for using those links when you need to purchase anything, and the support means the world to me, and I thank you for supporting the people that support me. I hope that this helped you. Please don't get stagnant. Please, like I have believed for a long time, that we have to evolve or die. And the very second we stop evolving, the very moment that we think we have it all figured out, is the moment that the whole world is gonna pass us by. So do it for that, or do it just because it's emotionally satisfying to learn techniques, to grow, to be better. But whatever your reason, whatever your drive, make sure you never stop experimenting and testing new techniques and new things out. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.